She was fired for bringing her daughter to work until the new boss walked in and hired her back. Ornal Station's retail ring operated with a predictability that never stopped feeling slightly artificial. Wide walkways curved in a clean arc, lined with cafes and small shops that kept their lights bright from morning cycles to late hours. Everything smelled faintly of roasted Ferland seed coffee, disinfected metal, and the mild coolant that drifted from the ceiling vents. The gravity was soft, just enough to keep feet steady. People like that. It made the ring feel safe, polished, and controlled. Naria finished lining up a row of cups at Luma Brew 7's bar. She worked the morning rush with quick, trained movements. Her purple skin carried a natural sheen under the amber strip lights overhead. The silver flecks scattered across her shoulders caught the light each time she turned. Long yellow hair, straight and heavy, fell down her back, held by a simple metal ring that had lost most of its shine. Her uniform made her stomach tighten every cycle she put it on. The black halter top tied behind her neck, leaving her back bare. The charcoal-wrapped skirt rode low on her hips, splitting high on one thigh. She adjusted it throughout every shift, hoping no one noticed the way she tugged it lower when customers stared too long. She didn't want to work here. She needed to. Before the station, she had washed dishes in a ground-level eatery on Sarin 4, then lost the job when the owner cut staff. She had come to Ornal Station because the ring promised steady work. Instead, it offered Luma Brew, long hours, strict dress rules, and a manager who treated staff as part of the decor. Naria tapped the drink panel, watching blue steam curl from the nozzle. 2 Ferland Blacks, she called to the pickup counter. No foam, extra heat. Her voice stayed calm, but stress pressed against her ribs. She needed today's credits. She needed this job to hold until she found something better. In a service corridor behind the staff door, Leary waited. The narrow space buzzed with pipe noise and the faint rattle of a malfunctioning cooler. Leary pressed her back to the wall, pulling her oversized gray work robe tight around her small body. The robe had been thrown out by a dock worker months ago, and the sleeves kept slipping down her arms. Her bare feet rested on cold metal flooring. Every few minutes, she rubbed her hands together for warmth. Her yellow hair had been cut unevenly with a dull blade in their small cubes bathroom. One side hung longer than the other. She touched it often, worried it looked strange. Her mother had whispered before the shift, keeping her voice steady so Leary wouldn't panic. "Stay here. I'll check on you when the line slows. I'll bring you water and something small to eat." Leary nodded then, but now she kept shifting from one foot to the other. The station's recycled air felt colder in the corridor, and she listened to the cafe noise through the thin door, waiting for her mother's voice. Out front, a young worker rushed with a tray of Zyronberry foams. One cup tipped. Blue liquid splashed across the tiles and streamed toward the staff entrance. The thin line crept under the seam and spread across the corridor floor. It reached Leary's feet. She stiffened. Cold liquid soaked into the robe's hem. Panic rose fast, sharp enough to make her chest tighten. She had been scolded before by strangers for simply being in the wrong place. She thought the same thing would happen now. When she tried to step back, her heels slipped on the wet floor and she stumbled forward, straight through the staff door. The cafe went quiet, completely quiet. Customers turned. Workers paused mid-motion. Leary stood in the doorway, soaked robe clinging to her legs, yellow hair plastered against her cheeks. Her purple skin looked darker near the stain, and she curled her toes against the shiny floor. Naria froze at the bar. For a second, she couldn't breathe. Then everything else blurred, and she rushed toward her daughter. "Leary," she said, voice breaking despite her effort to stay steady. She grabbed the girl's shoulders gently. "It's all right. Come here. What is this?" Sorrel stepped into view, her tone flat but sharp enough to cut. The jade-skinned manager's uniform, white fabric with silver seams, looked pristine under the cafe lights. Her metallic black hair was pinned so tight it seemed immovable. "You brought a child into restricted areas," Sorrel said. "Into my cafe." "She stayed in the back," Naria answered, trying to sound firm. Stress built under her skin. Her hands trembled slightly where she held Leary. I had nowhere else to leave her today. The day's shelter closed. Our cube heater is broken. There are hygiene standards here, Sorrel said. This is a premium ring. Customers expect cleanliness and consistency. A pair at the nearest table shifted uncomfortably. One man looked away quickly. Another leaned back with a faint smirk. Leary clutched the wet robe with both hands. Her small fingers shook. Sorrel flicked her wristband. A hollow display lit up. Clause 7, she said. No dependents allowed. You signed this. No exceptions. A cold wave hit Naria's chest. She forced her shoulders straight, trying to shield her daughter from the stares pressing from all directions. Please, she said, keeping her voice low. Just for today. She wasn't near the food. She was just waiting. You're dismissed, Sorrel said. Collect your pay. Return the uniform. Leave now. No staff helped. No customer spoke up. Silence did the work of a crowd. Naria took Leary's hand, guided her toward the exit, and kept her chin up even as embarrassment prickled at her skin. Her uniform felt smaller with every step, as if the fabric shrank under judgment. Outside, the promenade buzzed again with movement. Shoppers, office workers, station crew. Bright signs pulsed across storefronts. The artificial air felt cooler compared to the cafe. Leary tugged at her mother's hand. Mama, I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to ruin anything. You didn't ruin anything, Naria said quickly. She stopped beneath a support beam and knelt. Look at me. She lifted Leary's chin gently. You didn't do anything wrong, she said. Stress pushed behind her eyes, but she kept her voice steady. I should have found a better solution. That's on me, not you. Leary nodded, though her breathing stayed shallow. A figure stepped into their line of sight. Naria straightened instantly, shielding Leary without thinking. Miles Corrin stood a few steps away, holding a half-finished furling cup. His stance was relaxed but alert, shoulders squared, weight balanced like someone who had spent years standing ready. His dark hair was clipped short, a faint scar crossing his right eyebrow. He had spent 10 cycles in orbital security and another in shipboard training before resigning. The work had drained him, and he'd come to Ornal Station to build something quieter. He planned to open his own cafe, a place with fair treatment and steady work, without the rigid hierarchy he left behind. He hadn't expected to witness anything like what he'd just seen. You worked at Luma Brew, he said. Not anymore, Naria answered. If you're here to give advice, save it. I'm here to offer a job, he said. Her eyes narrowed. She didn't move. You don't know me, she said. I know enough, he replied. I watch how you kept that place running. I watched how you dropped everything the second she needed you. He glanced at Leary, careful to lower his posture slightly so he didn't loom. And you, he said gently. What do you like to drink? Leary tensed, unsure whether he was mocking her. The fizzy Orvan water, she said quietly, with Larn fruit. Then help me perfect the recipe, he said. She blinked at him, confused by how normal he sounded. Miles looked back at Naria. There's an empty unit 2 corridors down, he said. At least the last week. I'm opening a cafe there. Ground line brew house. I need someone experienced to help run it. Suspicion rose in her chest. Too many people had used opportunities as leverage before. What do you want in return? She asked. A staff member who knows how to work under pressure, he said. And someone who stays steady when things turn ugly. He started walking toward the direction of the empty unit, then stopped. If you want to see the place, follow me, he said. If not, we're done talking. Naria looked down at Leary. The girl squeezed her hand. Mama, she whispered. Can we at least look? Something shifted inside her. Fear, hope, uncertainty. She felt all of it at once. She took a slow breath, steadied herself, and stood. Well, look, she said. She lifted Leary into her arms and followed Miles along the ring, stepping toward a future she had not planned for but couldn't ignore now. The empty unit sat between a closed supply kiosk and an old hollow toy shop that hadn't updated its display in years. The shutters were half open, light spilling out onto the walkway in a soft strip. Miles keyed the door panel, and the metal rolled upward with a steady clatter. The space inside carried the clean smell of recent scrubbing mixed with faint dust. Naria stepped in cautiously, holding Leary's hand. The room stretched long, with bare metal flooring and exposed ceiling panels waiting for new fixtures. Power ports lined the left wall. The right wall stood blank, waiting for decoration. At the far end, a wide viewport revealed the planet below, a moving sheet of blue-green with slow white currents. Leary's eyes widened as she walked closer to it. You can see the clouds move. It looks alive. It is alive, Miles said, stepping beside her. Storm systems shift every few hours down there. This view sells itself if we use it right. Narration scanned the room, noting the stacked equipment crates, the unmounted counters, and the rolled floor mats. Her shoulders lowered slightly. The open space felt different from the polished pressure of Luma Brew. "You're building all of this alone?" she asked. "I'll hire 2 more once we open," he said. "But the planning needs a steady head. That's why I'm offering you the lead." She studied him. "Why choose someone who just got fired publicly?" "Because I saw why you were fired," he said. "Not because you failed. Because you refused to abandon your kid." He didn't soften his tone. He didn't try to sound heroic. He simply stated it. Leary tugged on her mother's skirt. "Mama, does this mean we can stay here sometimes?" Narration brushed a strand of yellow hair from her daughter's face. "We're only looking today." Miles walked to a crate near the wall and opened it. He pulled out a sealed tray of Karen meat, pale and marbled. "This is what I want on the menu. Hot meals keep customers on the ring longer." Her stomach tightened at the sight. She hadn't eaten meat in days. She kept her arms folded so he wouldn't notice her hunger. He lifted another object, a folded schematic sheet. "This will be the bar. I plan to put it on the left, but I want your opinion." She stepped closer, tracing her fingers along the edge of an unmounted counterframe. The metal felt cool beneath her fingertips. "If you put it by the door, lines will block the entrance. Shift it back by 2 meters. People will walk deeper in before they decide whether to stay." He nodded once, not challenging her suggestion. "Then that's where it goes." She hesitated, then asked the question weighing on her since the walkway. "What exactly is your mission with this cafe? You spent years in orbital security. Now you're building drink counters and buying meat trays." "I want something stable," he said, leaning against a crate. "I worked too long in corridors where people shouted commands and blamed each other. Here, I can make rules that don't crush anyone." His gaze moved from her to Leary, then back. "And I want staff who don't treat kindness as weakness." Leary wandered toward a stack of unopened floor panels. "Can I sit on this?" "Carefully," Miles said. She climbed up, feet dangling, finally relaxing. Narration looked again at the viewport. The ocean's surface glimmered under station lights. "What will my hours be?" "Morning cycles until early afternoon," he said. "Then we alternate shifts once the cafe stabilizes. You'll run the floor. I'll handle supply and security." "Security?" she asked. "A cafe needs someone who can handle trouble politely," he said. "People behave differently when they think no one is watching." She understood the emphasis. "You mean people like Sorrel?" "Exactly." He walked to the small back room. "There's a staff lounge. Old, but the heater still works. If you're willing, we can test the Karen meat now." Hunger twisted in her stomach again, sharper this time. Leary heard meat and sat upright. "Can we stay for the food?" the girl asked. Narration exhaled quietly. "Just for a little while." In the lounge, Miles unwrapped the meat, placed it in the small heating unit, and set the timer. The scent filled the room quickly, rich, savory, warm. Leary sat on a crate, swinging her legs, watching the timer lights gently blink. Narration stood near the table, arms folded. She tried to hide her anticipation, but Miles noticed her glancing at the heater. "It's enough for all of us," he said, not pointing out anything further. When the heater chimed, he removed the tray with a cloth. The meat glistened, edges crisping. He sliced it into small strips and set them on flatbread with a smear of mild grain paste. The food didn't look fancy, but it smelled comforting. He handed a piece to Leary first. She took a bite. "It's hot," she said around a mouthful, "but it's so good." He passed the next piece to Narration. She hesitated only a second before eating. The warmth spread through her chest, easing the tension she carried from the cafe incident. Miles ate his share quietly, watching them without staring. "You said you want a steady job," he said. "What else do you want?" She wiped her fingers on a napkin. I want a place where my kid isn't seen as a problem. That's easy, he said. She can stay in the staff corner when we open, with a small desk, in proper clothes, not a discarded robe. She tensed. Clothes cost credits. I can cover a starter set, he said. It's an investment, not charity. Leary looked up at her mother with wide eyes, waiting for approval. Narration studied Miles carefully. His posture stayed steady, not leaning in, not pushing. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was offering structure, predictability, space. What would you expect from me in return? She asked. Work, he said simply. Good work. And honesty. She looked down at her daughter, who was licking a smear of grain paste from her hand. Something eased inside her. And if I mess something up? She asked. Then we fix it, he said, without humiliation. That answer hit deeper than he knew. Leary tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mama, can we come back tomorrow? Narration ran a hand down the girl's uneven hair. Her throat tightened. Miles leaned back against the counter, giving her room to think. Take the job, he said quietly. Let me give both of you a steadier start. She didn't speak right away. She glanced at the clean walls, the equipment crates, the unexplored potential of the room, the planet through the viewport, and finally her daughter's hopeful face. She nodded once. I'll work the opening cycle, she said. We'll be here tomorrow. Miles didn't smile too broadly, but his posture loosened. Then we begin at sunrise shift. Leary grinned, shoulders relaxing fully for the first time that day. Narration lifted her daughter into her arms, adjusted the robe around her small frame, and turned toward the door. As they stepped out into the walkway, the shutters slid down behind them with a quiet, final sound. The promise of a new rhythm, one not shaped by humiliation or fear, waited on the other side of that door. The next morning, the promenade lights brightened to simulate early daylight. Vendors rolled open shutters. Maintenance drones swept leftover dust from a night shift, and station workers filtered into the ring at a steady pace. The air carried the combined scent of fresh, cleaning solvent and the first brews of the day drifting from nearby cafes. Narration approached the unfinished unit with her daughter's hand held firmly in her own. Overnight, she had managed to wash Leary's stained robe in the cube's small sink, but the fabric stayed blotched with faint blue marks. Leary wore it anyway, sleeves rolled high, hair brushed by her mother until the uneven strands lay flatter. When they reached the shutter, it lifted halfway on its own. Miles must have set the override earlier. Inside, he stood near a stack of new crates, sleeves already rolled, shirt marked with flecks of dust. He looked like he had started working long before the ring lights came on. You're early, he said, setting a crate aside. You said sunrise, Narration replied. We don't like to be late. Leary stepped inside first. The floor looks cleaner. I scrubbed it before the supply delivery, Miles said. Didn't want anyone slipping. Naria's eyes shifted around the space. Yesterday's clutter had been pushed aside. The bar counters now stood in the spot she suggested. A temporary table was set up near the viewport with unpacked utensils. You worked all night? She asked. He shrugged. I couldn't sleep much anyway. Might as well make progress. He walked to a medium-sized crate and pulled out a sealed package. These are for her. Leary watched, tense and curious. He cut the seal and opened it. Inside lay a simple set of children's clothing. A deep green wrapped tunic, soft leggings, and small slip-on shoes with flexible soles. Leary's eyes brightened. She reached for the tunic, then paused, glancing up at her mother for permission. It's fine, Narration said. Try it. Leary slipped behind a stack of crates to change. When she emerged, the green tunic draped neatly against her purple skin, and the leggings fit properly instead of bunching around her ankles. She pressed her hands along the fabric, testing its warmth. It feels soft, she said, and it smells new. Miles crouched slightly to her height. You look ready to work the cafe. Her chest lifted proudly. I can help with cleaning and wiping tables. We'll start with small tasks, he said. But yes, you'll help. She nodded so enthusiastically her uneven yellow hair bounced. Narration set her bag down near the wall. The bag contained only a rolled cloth, a spare hair ring, and a sealed cup of water. She kept her posture steady, but tension still clung to her shoulders. She didn't want to appear too hopeful or too desperate. She didn't want him thinking she expected anything more than work. Miles noticed the tension and shifted into practical mode. I want your opinion on the layout before we mount anything. Come see the brewing wall. He led her to a row of metal segments stacked neatly against the left side. She ran her hand across one, tracing the smooth surface. These will hold heat dispensers. 2 for human brews, 2 for alien blends, he said. We keep it simple. No hologram menus. Just a clean board with prices. She nodded. Less distraction. More authenticity. Exactly. As they measured the spacing, Leary wandered toward the viewport and sat cross-legged, watching transport ships move along the docking lanes. Her small reflection shimmered faintly on the glass. Naria glanced back several times. Miles caught it. She's safe, he said quietly. You can focus. I know, she replied, though her voice carried a soft strain. She's just never had this much space before. She'll get used to it. They worked through the morning, marking floor positions with tape strips. At one point, Miles lifted a heavy counterframe, and Aria moved instinctively to help. Their hands brushed on the metal edge. She pulled back quickly, unsure whether he noticed the sudden heat rising in her chest. He didn't react, not visibly. He only shifted his grip so she wouldn't strain her wrists. Hold here, he said. We'll slide it together. They set it down with a controlled thud. The hours passed with steady progress. Leary swept a section of the floor, humming quietly. Miles drilled the first set of wall anchors. Naria unpacked utensils, checking for cracks or dirt. When noon approached, the scent of prepared food from nearby vendors drifted in. Roasted grain pitas, hot carrot meat strips, and spiced broth bowls. Leary sniffed the air, eyes drifting toward the walkway. Miles noticed. You both ate this morning? Some bread, Naria said. Not much else. He went to a cooler crate and pulled out prepared carrot meat from the batch they stored last night. We'll make bowls. It'll keep us moving for the rest of the day. He heated the strips on a portable grill plate, the sound of sizzling meat filling the quiet space. The smell built quickly, rich, savory, grounding. He added a handful of chopped greens and small soft grain cubes from a sealed packet, stirring with a metal spoon. Leary sat on a stool, swinging her legs. Does every cafe get a cook like this? No, Miles said. Most reheat frozen packs. We'll do better. He filled 3 bowls and handed one to Leary first, one to Naria, then kept the last for himself. The warm flavors settled in Naria's stomach like relief. She hadn't tasted steady heat cooked food in weeks. After a few bites, she finally asked a question she'd been holding since yesterday. If you run this place, who handles the finance and paperwork? This unit looks expensive. I've saved for years, he said. I left security with enough to start something new, and I have a partner handling the registration process. She looked up. Partner? Business partner, he clarified. A supplier, not someone living with me. Her shoulders relaxed by a small fraction. He finished eating, then wiped the counter with a cloth. Once we open, I want you to manage the floor. I'll train you on inventory and ordering. Then you train others. She held the bowl tightly, processing his words. That's more responsibility than I expected. You're capable, he said. I saw that immediately. Her breath caught for a moment before she set the bowl aside. Work continued. By late afternoon, the bar counters were mounted, the brewing wall anchored, and half the seating layout taped out. Leary had fallen asleep on a folded mat near the viewport, her new tunic bunched around her waist, small shoes tucked beside her. As the unit quieted, Miles lowered his voice. She's exhausted. She doesn't usually get this much movement, Naria said, or this much space. You can bring her every day, he said. There's room. Naria sat beside her sleeping daughter, smoothing the fabric over her small frame. She looked up at Miles. You're giving us a chance we didn't expect. I'm giving the cafe a team I can rely on, he said. The rest comes naturally if we work for it. She studied him for a long moment. He didn't look away. Outside the unit, the walkway lights shifted to late-day tones. Inside, the 3 of them stood in a half-built cafe, surrounded by crates and tools, but a sense of order settling into each corner piece by piece. Leary stirred quietly on the mat, and Naria brushed her hand along the girl's cheek. The child sighed, sinking deeper into sleep. For the first time in many cycles, the air around them felt steady. Not complete, but steady. The walkway lights dimmed into late cycle amber by the time they finished mounting the last fixture. The station outside the shutters moved at its usual rhythm. Steady footsteps, short conversations, the faint hum of traffic rails above. Inside the unit, the air felt warmer from the work they had done, and the smell of earlier cooked meat still lingered faintly near the back room. Leary slept on the folded mat near the viewport, curled on her side with one arm tucked under her cheek. Her new green tunic wrinkled slightly where she shifted. Small breaths escaped her in quiet intervals. Her shoes sat lined neatly beside her feet, positioned the way children do when trying to feel organized in a space they want to keep. Miles lowered the power tools onto a crate, rubbing dust from his palms. "We'll stop here," he said. "Any more drilling, and the whole ring will complain." Naria stood from adjusting a counter panel and pressed a hand to her lower back. "I didn't expect this much progress in one day." "You kept pace fine," he said. "Most people slow down at the halfway mark." She pulled her long yellow hair over one shoulder and tied it with her metal ring. The uneven strands she had cut herself brushed her collarbone. She glanced at Leary again, then at the half-assembled cafe. "Did you already register this unit?" "The ownership, I mean." Miles opened a drawer on the temporary table and pulled out a thin datapad. "Registered last week," he said. "Underground Line Brew House. Lease paid for 6 months in advance." She took the datapad when he offered it, scrolling through the simple registration screen. No hidden names, no secondary owner listed. "You really are doing this alone," she murmured. "Not anymore," he replied. She didn't comment, but the words lingered between them. He walked to a sealed crate in the corner and tapped the lid. "Before we end for the day, I want to show you one thing." From the crate, he lifted a smooth, rectangular light panel carved with thin grooves. The panel was dark until he touched the center. Then a soft, white glow spread across its surface. Naria stepped closer. "What is it?" "A table lamp for the corner seating," he said. "But there's more to it. It's from an Arini artisan stall. They said it's used in small home rituals, night comfort, guiding light, something like that." Her eyes lowered to the soft glow, recognizing the shape in a faint, distant way. "It's similar to a lumine sleeve," she said. "My mother had one. You light it before a meal or before resting. It's simple, nothing religious." "Can you show me how it works?" he asked. She hesitated, then set the lamp on the counter. She placed her palm flat on the glow and traced a slow line with her fingers. The light shifted from white to a calm amber, pulsing once before steadying. "That's the right tone," she said softly. "Amber means the room is safe enough to sleep." Miles watched her hands, not her exposed shoulders or the way her wrap skirt brushed her thigh when she leaned forward. His attention stayed fixed on the movement itself, following the ritual as if it mattered to the function of the cafe. "Can you teach me the full sequence?" he asked. She nodded. She guided his hand over the panel. Their fingers touched briefly. She kept her voice low so they wouldn't wake Leary. "Start here, then slide outward like this." He followed her direction. Their arms nearly brushed, and she steadied his wrist when the glow flickered. "It responds to intention," she said. "If your hand hesitates, it dims. If you're calm, it brightens." The lamp glowed brighter under his touch. She blinked at that, but said nothing. When they finished, she pulled her hand back slowly. He straightened and adjusted the panel on the counter. "We'll use this corner for the reading seats." Her posture stiffened slightly, an echo of a thought she hadn't voiced. "If you're planning to hire more staff, what will they think about me? About us being here before the opening? They'll see you as the one who helped build it," he said. "And if they don't respect that, they don't work here." She inhaled once, quietly. The certainty in his tone settled some tension she hadn't realized she was holding. Leary stirred on the mat, mumbling something faint. Naria knelt beside her and brushed a hand across her forehead. "She needs proper rest," she said. "Better than the cube gives." Miles stood near the viewport, arms crossed lightly. "You both can stay in the lounge for a few hours if you want. The heater works." It's warmer than walking back now. Naria's first instinct was to refuse. Pride, or maybe old fear, wrapped tight inside her chest. But Leary's small hand clutched the edge of the mat as she shifted, and her face pinched briefly as if she felt a cold draft. "We can rest here," Naria said quietly. "Just for a little while." Miles nodded and moved to adjust the lounge heater through the wall panel. The device hummed to life, sending warm air toward the room. As she carried Leary to the lounge, she spoke without looking back. "Why did you really hire me? Not the simple version, the real one." Miles followed her at a slow pace. "Because I want someone who won't pretend everything is fine when it isn't," he said. "I've worked with people who hide behind uniforms, rules, and titles. You don't do that." She laid Leary on the small couch inside the lounge. The girl curled instinctively toward the warmth. "And what about my daughter?" Naria asked. "What place does she have in your plan?" "A stable one," he said. "If she's part of your life, she's part of mine. This cafe won't run on fear or punishments. It'll run on people who trust each other." Naria sat at the edge of the couch, brushing stray yellow hairs from her daughter's face. The soft glow of the heater cast a faint amber light, similar to the ritual lamp outside. She didn't speak for a long moment. Then she asked the last question that had been pressing her since yesterday. "Is there anything you're not telling me? About your past? Your mission here? Your reason for choosing this station?" Miles leaned against the doorframe. "I left orbital security after 2 incidents I couldn't control. I'm not here to chase anything or hide from anything. I'm here because I want a place where the rules make sense and the people around me aren't treated like disposable parts." He paused. "And I'm here because I saw you being pushed out of job for doing what a parent is supposed to do. I don't want a workplace like that anywhere near me." Her gaze lowered to Leary's small hand resting on her leg. Something warm built in her chest, steady and unfamiliar. "We'll work hard for you," she said. "I know," he replied. When he stepped away to lock the front shutter, she watched him for a moment. His calm posture, the deliberate way he checked each latch, the quiet certainty in his movements. There was no rush, no hidden aggression, no expectation hovering in his body language. Only steadiness, only choice. When he returned to the lounge, he lowered his voice. "Rest. I'll finish a few things out there." Naria leaned her head back against the wall. Leary's breathing softened beside her. The heater hummed a steady rhythm. Through the open doorway, she saw Miles adjusting the ritual lamp to its amber setting, the glow spreading across the half-built cafe. For the first time in many cycles, she felt safe enough to close her eyes. Not because the world was kinder, but because someone finally treated her as if she mattered. The next cycle began before the promenade lights fully brightened. A dull glow eased across the curved walkway as vendors prepared their stalls. The shutters to Groundline Brewhouse lifted with a smooth rise, revealing the half-finished interior and the faint warmth left from the lounge heater that had run through part of the night. Miles stepped inside first, carrying a small food container from the early shift vendor down the ring. He placed it on the counter before checking the corners of the unit, running a quick visual sweep the way old habits trained him to. When everything looked unchanged, he walked to the lounge. Naria was awake, sitting on the edge of the small couch with her hair loose around her shoulders. Leary slept curled against her hip, the green tunic slightly wrinkled from the night. The room still carried the soft scent of warmed air and fabric, a sharp contrast to the cold hallways of the capsule block they usually returned to. "You slept?" Miles asked quietly. "A little," she said. She slept deeply. It's been a long time since she slept without shivering. He nodded once and set the food container beside her. "Meat strips. Fresh. Eat before we start." She hesitated, then opened the container. Inside were thin slices of seared Karen meat with a simple grain roll. She handed the roll to Leary as the girl stirred awake. Leary blinked up at them. "Are we working again?" "Yes," Miles said. "You two start the day with food first. That's the rule." Leary bit into the roll, crumbs scattering across the blanket. "This place feels warmer than our cube." "It's better insulated," Miles said. "We'll keep it heated while we work." Naria brushed her daughter's hair back into place. "We can handle the morning tasks. You tell us where to begin." Miles stepped back in the main cafe area and pointed to a stack of unopened crates. Today we mount the shelves and set the ventilation shields. After that, you two can help with the customer area. Leary stood, energized by the food. Can I clean the seats again? And maybe help the tables look the same? You can, Miles said, but slowly. Don't rush. As they worked, Miles kept an eye on details he hadn't addressed the day before. He hadn't asked Narration where she learned to manage a cafe environment so efficiently. When she organized the utensils by size and material without being told, he finally asked, "You've done this before?" She paused, tightening a bolt on the counter side. "Not here. On Sarin 4, a small eatery. I handle morning prep." The owner closed the place when he fell into debt. "So you were trained properly," he said. "No," she corrected. "I learned because someone had to keep the line moving. He always said speed makes customers forget flaws." I didn't agree, but I followed orders. Miles tightened the ventilation shield above the brewing wall. "Here we won't run on speed. We'll run on consistency and respect." She didn't reply, but her posture eased. As the morning shifted into late cycle, a soft chime sounded from the walkway. Someone stood outside the entrance, an inspection robot delivering small supply crates. Miles signed for them with a scan of his wristband. When the robot glided away, he stacked the crates near the door. Inside one lay more staff items: aprons, storage boxes, and a small dark jacket size for a child. He opened it quietly. Leary saw it before he could speak. "Is that for me?" "If it fits," he said. The girl held the jacket up. It was simple and durable, with soft interior lining. She slipped her arms through, lifting her chin with pride when the fabric settled perfectly across her shoulders. "It's warm," she said. "Can I keep it on?" "Yes," Miles said. "It's yours now." Narration looked from the jacket to Miles, then back to her daughter. "You didn't need to do that." "I know," he said, "but she needs proper clothes if she's here every day." Naria's throat tightened for a moment. She turned away to focus on opening another crate. Hiding a reaction she didn't want to show so openly. They continued working until midday. With each piece mounted, the cafe began to resemble a real establishment rather than a storage space. Miles installed the final bolts on the brewing wall, while Narration arranged utensil drawers with quick precision. Leary wiped down the first table, humming softly. When the hum of foot traffic increased outside, Miles paused. "We should eat before we keep going." He heated more Karen meat on the grill plate, added chopped greens and soft grain cubes, and served them in shallow bowls. The warm aroma filled the room again. They sat on crates around the temporary table. During the meal, Narration looked toward the window, then spoke without lifting her gaze. "If we stay here most days, it might confuse her." She touched Leary's shoulder lightly. "She's used to people coming and going, not staying." Miles followed her meaning. "Routine helps kids. If you stay here during opening cycles, she'll stabilize faster." "She needs stability," Narration said, "and someone consistent. Not too many new faces too quickly." "She'll have that," he said. "We're not rushing anything." Leary chewed slowly, watching the two of them with a quiet focus. After a moment, she said a small, fragile line that came out almost like a confession. "I don't want to sleep alone anymore." The sentence hung in the quiet space. Straightforward, honest, heavy. Narration reached for her daughter's hand. Miles didn't speak, but his cleared expression showed he understood the weight behind the child's words. Narration inhaled softly. "We'll make a better routine," she said to Leary. "One where you're not left behind." Miles stood to clear the bowls. "You two don't have to rush back to the cube tonight. The lounge is warmer. Use it again if you need to." Narration looked up. "We don't want to intrude." "You're not intruding," he said. "This place is as much yours as mine while we build it." The word struck deeper than he intended. She turned her face slightly away, hair sliding down her shoulder. After the meal, they continued assembling the seating area. Miles lifted the heavier pieces while Narration directed the angles. Their movements coordinated naturally, her precision balancing his strength. At one point, when they moved a metal bench into position, she lost her grip slightly and stepped too close. His hand steadied her waist for only a second before he let go. Her breath tightened. She nodded once, silently, then returned to work. Late cycle light washed across the floor. Leary sat on a stool, drawing shapes in a small scrap paper she had found in the supply crate. Simple lines, tables, lights, and a shaky outline of the three of them standing inside the cafe. Miles noticed but didn't comment. By the time the walkway lights dimmed again, the main counter, half the seating, and the brewing station stood ready. Leary stretched, her new jacket rustling softly. "Mama, can we stay here tonight too?" Narration looked at Miles slowly. "If it's allowed." "It is," he said. "You'll be safer here." She nodded, relief hidden beneath a steady expression. She gathered the mat again, placed it in the lounge, and guided Leary to lie down. The girl curled into the warmth immediately. Narration remained in the doorway for a moment, watching her daughter settle. Then she turned to Miles, who was adjusting the last wall anchor. "This place, it feels different," she said. "Not just because it's new. It's supposed to," he replied. "We're building something that doesn't feel like the rest of the ring." She stepped closer, her voice lower. "And you're sure you want us here? This isn't charity." "It's not," he said. "It's structure. I want you to lead this place with me. And she needs steadiness. We can give each other that." Her eyes held his for a moment longer than before. She didn't answer verbally, but her expression softened in a way that confirmed her decision. When she returned to the lounge, she sat beside Leary and leaned her head back against the wall. Through the door, she could see Miles locking up for the night, checking each latch one by one. He worked with the same calm he always carried, deliberate, steady, consistent. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was waiting for something to go wrong. She felt like she was stepping towards something that might finally hold. The shutters sealed the unit in quiet as the ring shifted into late-night mode. Only a thin band of walkway light slipped under the door. Inside, the lounge heater hummed smoothly, pushing warm air across the small room where Leary slept curled beneath a folded blanket. Her breathing stayed soft and even, her small hand resting against her mother's thigh. Narration sat beside her, half awake, listening to the faint echoes of the station outside. The warmth settled deep into her muscles, loosening tension she had carried for weeks. She adjusted the blanket around Leary's shoulders, then stood slowly, careful not to wake her. Outside the lounge, Miles was still working. He crouched at the base of the brewing wall, tightening a final bolt. The glow from the overhead panel cast sharp lines across his arms and jaw. His movements were quiet and methodical, nothing rushed. "You're still awake," he said without turning. "So are you," she answered, stepping closer. He stood and stretched his shoulders. Couldn't leave things half-finished. It never sits well. She moved toward the counter and ran her fingers along the metal surface. "You push yourself too hard." "I've had worse nights," he said with a short breath. "At least here, the only thing fighting back is a stubborn bolt." She gave a small, tired smile. "And no one's shouting orders at you." "No one I'll listen to," he replied. She leaned her hip against the counter. The soft amber from the ritual lamp illuminated her profile. Purple skin catching warm reflections, yellow hair falling forward over one shoulder. Her clothes were simple. Her halter top, her skirt, and the jacket she draped over herself earlier for warmth. He noticed she kept tugging at the skirt unconsciously, as if still expecting judgment that never came here. "Does this place remind you of anything from before?" she asked. "Not really," he said, wiping dust from his palms. "Most of my past was metal corridors, drills, and pressure doors. This is quieter, more honest." She lowered her voice. "You left that life because of something that happened. You didn't say what." He paused, then leaned against the counter beside her. "Two incidents went wrong. Not because we were untrained, because the system cared more about protocol than people. After that, I couldn't follow their rules anymore." She nodded slowly, understanding more than she admitted. "You don't want to repeat the same mistakes." "No," he said, "not here." Her hands tightened slightly around the edge of the counter. "And what about trusting me? Someone you barely know?" "I trust what I see," he said. "I saw how fast you reacted to protect your daughter. I saw how you handled pressure. That tells me enough." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It simply settled between them, steady and present. Then a faint whimper drifted from the lounge. Naria straightened immediately. That's her. She moved toward the doorway, but Miles placed a hand lightly on her arm, not stopping her, only slowing her. She's dreaming, he said softly. Let's check. They stepped inside together. Leary shifted restlessly under the blanket, her face tightening, breathing uneven. Naria knelt beside her, brushing a hand over her hair. It's all right, little star, she whispered. Leary murmured something broken and confused. Her hand searched blindly for comfort. Without speaking, Miles stepped closer and adjusted the heater output. Warm air flowed toward the couch. He then placed a folded cloth bundle beside Leary, not touching her directly, but close enough to offer presence. He stepped back, giving space instead of crowding them. Leary's breathing slowed again. Her face relaxed. Naria looked at Miles over her shoulder, quiet gratitude in her expression. She doesn't calm easily. Not for most people. She's a kid, he said. She needs someone steady. She watched him for a moment, her emotions shifting. Not fear, not caution, something softer. When Leary settled completely, Naria stood and stepped outside again. Miles followed, keeping a respectful distance. You handle her with care, she said. She deserves it, he replied. Naria leaned against the wall, folding her arms. When you talk like that, it feels like you've already decided we're staying. Like you've made space for us without asking if we want it. He stepped closer, slow and deliberate. Do you? Her breath caught. His tone wasn't forceful. It was steady, grounded. We don't have many places left, she said quietly. And she wants somewhere she can breathe. Somewhere she isn't in the way. This can be that place, he said. She looked up at him. And me? What place do I have here? He didn't look away. Beside me. Building this. Running it. Making decisions with me. If you want that. Her stomach tightened. A mix of fear and something that pulled her toward him. You're giving a lot of trust to someone you barely know, she said. I'm not guessing, he replied. I'm choosing. The room felt warmer. Closer. The faint glow of the ritual lamp cast amber shadows across the counters. She took one step toward him, stopping close enough that she had to tilt her head slightly to meet his eyes. Her hands relaxed at her sides. Then I'll choose too, she said quietly. But I need time. I need to trust that this doesn't disappear the moment something goes wrong. He nodded, voice calm. Then I'll earn that. A beat passed, then another. She didn't move back. He didn't step forward. But the space between them shifted. Not rushed, not forced, simply charged with something that hadn't existed yesterday. A small sound broke the moment. Leary shifting again in her sleep. Naria exhaled slowly, steadying herself. I should sit with her. I'll lock up the front, he said, then rest a few hours myself. She paused at the lounge doorway. Miles. Yeah. She met his eyes, something unguarded in her expression. Thank you. For today. For everything. He nodded once, almost quietly. Get some sleep. She settled next to her daughter, adjusting the blanket. The heater glowed softly, filling the room with steady warmth. Miles dimmed the lights in the main area. Before turning away, he looked at the lounge one last time. Mother and child resting peacefully, something rare and fragile. He locked the final latch and sat on a crate, letting exhaustion settle into his muscles. The cafe around him felt different than yesterday. Not just a project, but a place beginning to feel claimed, lived in. And for the first time in years, he felt the quiet start of a home forming around him. The station's early cycle lights brightened slowly, washing a pale glow across the shutters before they opened again. The unit woke in silence. The soft hum of the heater, the faint scrape of Miles pushing a crate aside, and the slow, steady breaths of Leary still curled on the lounge couch. Naria stirred first. She lifted her head from the wall, where she'd slept half upright, and blinked away the haze of exhaustion. Her hair had loosened during the night, strands falling across her cheek. She tucked them behind her ear and checked on Leary. The girl slept deeply, wrapped in a warm blanket. Her face relaxed in a way Naria rarely saw. She rose and stepped quietly into the main room. Miles was already working. He stood near the brewing wall, tightening the final fittings around the dispenser valves. His shirt was slightly wrinkled from sleeping on a crate earlier, and he hadn't shaved yet, dark stubble roughening his jaw. He didn't look tired, just focused, hands steady as always. "You didn't sleep much," Naraya said softly. He looked over his shoulder. "Neither did you." She stepped closer, rubbing the stiffness from her arms. "At least she slept well." "She needed it," he said. "You did too." He offered her a small container he had opened earlier. Inside were slices of warm Karen meat and grain squares. She took it without arguing this time. As she ate, he adjusted the panel above the brewing wall. "We'll finish this section today," he said, "then start testing drinks." "You really think we'll open soon?" she asked. "Sooner than most people expect," he replied. She watched him for a moment, then spoke more quietly. "What happens when customers come? When they see me here? When they see her? They'll see the staff who built this place," he said. "Not a stray mother and child." "You say it like it's simple." "It is," he said. "If I enforce it." Their eyes met. The confidence in his voice wasn't arrogance. It was intent. Before either could say anything else, a small sound broke the quiet. Leary stood in the lounge doorway, rubbing her eyes. Her new jacket hung open over the green tunic. "Is it morning?" "It is," Naraya said, lifting her daughter into her arms. Leary settled against her shoulder, still half asleep. Miles set down the tool in his hand. "I want her to see something." He led them to the front counter where a small, unopened crate waited. He cut the seal and opened it. Inside were two small wooden charms shaped like round tokens, each etched with a thin, glowing pattern. "They're Oreni comfort markers," he said. "I bought them from the same artisan stall when I got the lamp." Naraya reached in, surprised. "These are used for pair rituals," she said quietly. "Not romantic ones, family bonds. A token to say someone belongs in the home." "I know," Miles said. "That's why I bought them." Leary blinked, curious. "What do you do with them?" Naraya lifted one token gently. "You place it on the doorframe. It's how he marks safe places." Miles motioned toward the lounge doorway. "Show me how it's done." She hesitated only a moment. Then she carried Leary toward the lounge while Miles followed. Standing before the doorframe, she pressed the charm to the metal. The grooves glowed faintly as her fingers warmed it. She traced the simple recognition pattern: a short arc, a downward line, a small circle. The glow steadied into a soft amber. "That's it," she said. "It means the people inside are welcome to rest." Miles lifted the second charm and offered it to Leary. "Your turn." Leary held it with both hands. "Mama, guide me." Naraya covered her daughter's small fingers with her own, guiding the movement. The charm vibrated lightly, then lit with the same amber glow as the first. Miles stepped back, letting the moment settle without speaking. When Leary finished, she stepped into the lounge, looked back out, and said quietly, "It feels like ours now." The sentence hit harder than she intended. Even Naraya paused, her breath catching faintly. Miles didn't interrupt. He understood exactly what the child meant. The rest of the day passed in focused work. They mounted additional shelving, tested heat panels, and organized the storage area. At one point, when they were lifting a heavy brewing tank, Naraya's grip slipped. Miles caught the weight with one arm and steadied her waist with the other. She froze at the closeness. He didn't step back immediately. Neither did she. Only when her breath wavered did he gently release her and lower the tank onto a crate. "You all right?" "Yes," she said, her voice steady but her pulse not. Later, while Leary cleaned the seating area with a soft cloth, Naraya and Miles tested the drink dispensers. A few misaligned valves sprayed steam across his forearm. She grabbed his wrist instinctively and pulled it toward her to check the skin. "It didn't burn," he said. "You should still watch the heat range." He raised an eyebrow. "You're scolding me now?" "A little," she admitted. He chuckled, a short, warm sound she hadn't heard from him before. It eased something in her chest. By evening, the cafe had begun to resemble the place they imagined. Counters assembled, seats aligned, a soft glow from the ritual lamp casting amber across the brewing wall. Leary fell asleep again on the mat, her jacket pulled tight around her. Naraya stood near the viewport, looking out at the planet below. The ocean shimmered with pockets of golden light. Miles stepped to her side, leaving a respectful amount of space, but not far enough to feel distant. "You're thinking about something," he said. She didn't deny it. "I'm thinking about how fast everything changed." A few days ago, we had nothing. Now we have this. We're building it, he said. Together. Her voice softened. And what about after it opens? What happens when the station sees us as a unit? They already do, he said. And I'm not hiding it. She turned slightly toward him. Her eyes held something unguarded. Why? You don't know where this is going. I don't need to, he said. I only need to know that I want both of you here. Every cycle, a small breath left her, almost a release. He didn't step closer, but the air between them tightened, warm and steady. She felt herself leaning into the moment, not with fear, but with clarity. Miles, she said, voice low, if we stay, don't make promises you can't keep. I won't, he said. I'll keep the ones I make. They stood together quietly, looking through the viewport as the ring lamps dimmed into evening. Behind them, the ritual lamp's amber glow deepened, softening the edges of the cafe. When Naria finally turned away from the window, she didn't return to the lounge immediately. She stepped closer to him instead, close enough to feel the warmth of his breath. She didn't kiss him. She didn't need to. The shift in her posture, in her eyes, in the way her hand brushed the counter beside his, said everything she wasn't ready to say out loud yet. Tomorrow would bring more work, more decisions. But tonight, something had settled between them with the clarity of a promise neither rushed nor spoken aloud. Something real, something chosen. The next morning cycle began with a soft chime from the station's overhead strips. Light spread slowly across the walkway outside, brightening from gray to pale gold. Inside the cafe, the air held the quiet warmth left from the night heater. Leary still slept soundly in the lounge, her jacket pulled up to her chin, cheek pressed to the blanket. Naria slipped out from beside her and stepped into the main room. She smoothed her skirt and adjusted the halter strap over her shoulder, still not used to waking somewhere that didn't immediately feel threatening. Her bare feet made light taps on the cooler metal floor. Miles was already awake. He stood at the far end of the cafe, setting narrow display shelved along the wall. His shirt sleeves were rolled to his elbows, revealing the faint scars along his forearms, old marks from years of orbital training. The soft ritual lamp glowed from the corner, casting amber light over his movements. He looked up. Morning. She stepped closer. You woke early. Couldn't sleep, he said. Too much on my mind. She stopped beside him. Worried about the cafe? He shook his head once. Worried about doing this right. With you. With her. Her breathing shifted. His honesty wasn't rushed. It wasn't dramatic. It landed quietly with weight. Before she could answer, Leary emerged from the lounge, rubbing her eyes. Mama, can we eat something warm again? Miles walked to the portable grill plate. I planned for that. He pulled out a sealed tray of carrot meat, sliced into thin strips, and set them on the grill. The meat sizzled, releasing a savory smell that spread quickly through the unfinished cafe. He added small grain squares and a dash of herb flakes. Leary climbed onto a stool, chin on her hands. It smells like a real home. The line hit both adults at once. It was simple, but it cut straight into the quiet moment between them. Naria placed a hand on her daughter's back. She didn't hide the reaction this time. Miles set 3 bowls on the counter. Eat first. Then we finished the final checks. They sat near the viewport, lights spilling across the floor as transport ships glided in the distance. Leary tore her grain square into pieces and dipped them into the meat broth. Naria ate slowly, savoring each bite as warmth spread through her body in a way she hadn't felt in years. Halfway through the meal, Naria finally voiced the thought she had kept since yesterday. When we open the cafe, we need a place to stay that isn't the cube. It's too cold, too small. It's hurting her sleep. Miles didn't hesitate. Stay here. She blinked. Here, every night, until you want something else, he said. The lounge is warm, safe, and close to work. She studied him carefully. And you're sure that's a good idea? People talk on this station. I don't care, he said. And if anyone asks, I'll tell them the truth. We're building this place as a family team. The word family made her breath catch. She looked at Leary, who was watching them both, sensing something she didn't fully understand. Leary spoke in a small voice. If we stay here, does that mean we all live together now? Naria froze. It wasn't a childish question. It was a longing shaped into words only because she finally dared. Miles placed his hand on the counter beside her, not touching, but close enough to feel like an anchor. "If that's what you two want," he said, "then yes." Naria's eyes softened. She rested her hand lightly over his. He didn't move, didn't squeeze, just held steady. The moment felt quiet, grounded, unmistakably real. When they finished eating, Miles moved to the center of the cafe. "There's one more thing we need before we open." He pulled up the station's household ledger interface on his wristband. The display projected into the air, a clean white hollow screen with 3 blank fields. Primary resident, additional member, additional member. He entered his name into the first. Then he extended the interface toward Naria. "Only if you choose it," he said. "This just makes it official that we live and work in the same registered home. No one can question why you're here late cycles or why she's with us." Naria stared at the fields. She had been pushed out of every job for having a child. Doors closed everywhere she went. But here, he wasn't asking her to hide. He was asking her to stand beside him. She looked at her daughter. Leary's eyes were wide, hopeful, afraid to speak. Then Naria placed her hand on the hollow panel. Her name appeared. A heartbeat passed. Leary stepped forward and touched the final slot with her small hand. Her name lit up in soft blue. Miles confirmed the registration with a single tap. The panel emitted a gentle tone. Household registered. 3 members. Status: active. Leary stared at the screen, then whispered the words that ended every doubt in the room. "Does this mean I can call you Dad now?" Miles inhaled sharply. His eyes softened, and he lowered himself to her height. "If that's what you want, yes." She leaned into him without hesitation, arms around his neck. He held her carefully, steadying her small frame. Naria felt warmth rise sharply in her chest. Not fear, not uncertainty. Something deeper. A quiet, grounded acceptance she hadn't felt in years. Later that evening, after cleaning the workspace and setting the final panel into place, Naria returned to the lounge to gather the blanket. She paused halfway through folding it. A faint heaviness settled low in her abdomen. Not illness, not exhaustion, something different. Something she hadn't felt since before the chaos that forced her to flee her old world. She rested a hand lightly on her belly, breath slow and steady. It was early, too early for certainty, but her body felt unmistakably different. She stood there a long moment, one hand on the blanket, the other resting quietly against her stomach, feeling a subtle warmth expanding inside her. Miles walked in, wiping dust from his hands. "Everything okay?" She turned toward him, eyes soft, voice low. "Yes, more than okay." Her posture said the rest. He understood enough not to push her with questions. He simply stepped closer, stopped just within reach, and let her choose the next move. She closed the distance, resting her forehead gently against his chest. His arms came around her, steady and warm. Outside the window, the ocean planet shimmered beneath the ring's lights. Inside the cafe, the ritual lamp glowed amber, steady, warm, alive. Their home was built. Their bond was set. Their future had already begun.